Hi there, and welcome back to another video. My name's Simon, and in this video I'm going to show you how you can make a tarp for under £10 by modifying one of these. This is an individual protection kit, or IPK. So for this project you're going to need the following things. One IPK. Now the IPK was issued to soldiers as a protective cover for trenches, essentially. So a soldier would dig a trench and then they would use this kit to cover half of it. In the kit you get pegs and cordage and one large sheet that measures about 9 foot by 5 foot, so it's perfectly big enough for a personal shelter, but it has no eyelets, tying out points. It's literally just a waterproof sheet. It's a woven fabric, rubberized, very thin, very light, incredibly lightweight. You're going to need some other fabric to make triangular reinforcing points for the corners and for the middle of each edge. I've got some 400 denier nylon here, which I got from my army surplus store, but you could use anything. You could cut up, but a bit of canvas would be ideal. And the other thing you're going to need is some webbing. Now I've got a bit of an old compression stuff sack here, which I'm going to cannibalize. It's broken anyway, for the webbing. Okay, so I need to have 8 tie-out points, and I'm just going to cut 4-inch pieces of this, doubled up, and they'll become my tie-out points on the corners and along the straight edges. You're also going to need a sewing machine. You could do this by hand, quite feasibly. It would take a little bit longer, but if you have access to a sewing machine, it's a lot easier, and you'll do a neater job, obviously. You know, I'm sure most people know somebody who has a sewing machine, friends or family. Okay, I have my own sewing machine. If you saw my video on the bucksaw case, you'll know that I broke my last machine. Tried to fix it. It was just totaled. So I went out and bought a new machine. Now when I say a new machine, this is 1970s vintage. It cost me £25 off eBay. I had to drive about 45 minutes to pick it up. I think that's a complete bargain. The amount I use it, I'm always making stuff, so you know a sewing machine is pretty much essential. So you're going to need some means of sewing. So if not a sewing machine, needle and thread, a pair of scissors, and that's about it. Just a bit of your time. So I'm going to cut this up to create the reinforced tabs for the corners. Make the squares 6 inches by 6 inches. That's about 150 millimeters by 150 millimeters. And then when they're cut diagonally, you'll end up with triangles. So the 4 squares that you end up cutting out will make 8 triangles. You're going to need 8, 4 for each corner and 4 for each length between corners. I decided to make myself a little template, which is 6 inches by 6 inches, just to make it quicker to mark out. So I'm just going to offer that over the nylon, mark it out, cut them out, and I'll have my 4 squares. Okay, I have my squares. Now I need to make them into triangles. So you take one square, fold it across corner to corner, like so, and you'll probably find that if you hold that carefully, you can just cut straight up the back of it along the fold line without having to mark it. Okay, so you end up with two triangles out of each square. Do that to all 4. Now what you need to do is you need to hem these. Now I'm going to fold over about 5 millimeters, half a centimeter of the edge, and then just run it along and seam. Okay, so you should end up with something like this, hemmed along this edge, and along this edge here. These corners you can just trim off, and then that will become your reinforcing piece. So starting with the corners, offer your reinforcement piece up so it lines up with the corner, and you're going to sew along. Now I will say one of the things you'll discover when you're sewing it, the IPK is slightly stretchy, just slightly stretchy, and obviously if you are using something like a nylon for your corner reinforcements, that won't be stretchy at all, so you've got to be careful to make sure that the stretchy IPK doesn't pull through more as you're sewing it. Otherwise you'll start off all right, and then but as you're sewing through you'll end up stretching the IPK, and then it won't meet properly in the corners. Okay, so just be aware of that as you're sewing. Okay, all the reinforcing tabs are sewn on. Now you just need some bits of webbing. I've got 8 lengths of webbing, about between 3 and 4 inches long, and I'm simply going to fold them in half to make a loop and sew them onto the end of each, or to the corner of each corner first of all, like this, to form a tie-out loop. Okay, so they'll go to that part on the corners. On the edges, find an edge, they'll just go to the center of that long edge, yeah, and just be stitched through. I like to stitch the tabs on in a square first off. Okay, going around this way on 4 sides, and then I like to go diagonally to form a cross in the middle. You can see it a bit better when I turn it around. You can see the pattern. Okay, so I do all my anytime I'm sewing on webbing, or if I'm making tree huggers for my hammock or whatever, I always sew in this pattern here. It's very strong. Okay, that's the tarp all finished. 4 corners reinforced with loops, 4 sides reinforced with loops as well. The other thing you'll need to make your tarp are the pegs and the cord that it comes with. So you should have enough cord with your IPK to get 4 lengths at 2 meters, which you'll use for the corners, and 2 lengths at about 3.5 meters for the lengths to string out between the 2 trees. Okay, so cut that, but don't forget to burn the ends, just to melt the ends with a lighter to stop it from fraying, because as with all nylon cordage, it has a tendency to fray if you just leave the ends unprotected. So all you've got to do is just burn it, melt it together, and that'll stop that from fraying. Just like that. Right, well, let's go outside and string it up and see how it looks. So there you have it. One tarp made from an IPK sheet which cost £8 off eBay. The only things I've added are the loops, which I had anyway. They were something I salvaged, and the fabric for the reinforced corners, which I had as well. But like I said earlier, you can use anything for that. You could cut up something that you already have, an old bag or whatever, to make those. That's fine. I've weighed that. That weighs under 700 grams, so it's quite light. That's including all the cordage. If you add the pegs, it's a little bit more, but it's still under 900 grams. Okay, so very light. Packs up very small, perfect bit of kit, and it's certainly enough shelter for one person. Okay, there you go, a tarp for under a tenner. So I hope you've enjoyed the video, hope you found it useful. If you have, please like and subscribe below. If you've got any comments or questions, please just drop them in the section below. That would be brilliant. I love to get comments, read my comments. And I look forward to seeing you on the next one. Cheers.